Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny back at it again, man. Welcome to DFS Zone. On today's video here at DFS Zone, we're going to be discussing two receivers that you guys should definitely have your eyes on for this weekend. And at the end of the video, I will discuss real quickly about another 5 or 6 more that I have my eyes on. And we're going to get started right after the intro. So we're back, man. Two receivers this weekend that you guys should definitely be looking at, and there are a number on the roster this coming weekend. And like I said in yesterday's video, I am at the verge. Really, pretty much my whole setup is going to be targeting some primary receivers, sprinkle in somebody in the mid-tier or lower tier that can be possibly very explosive in a good spot, and making sure I pay up at receiver as opposed to the running back position. But there could be a mixture of a number of players here, but there's a lot of options, even in the lower tier of the receivers. And like I said, at the very end, I will discuss a few other options that you may have, another few that I have my mind on and I'm really targeting as well. But let's talk about one person that I definitely feel really good about this weekend. I already spoke about his quarterback earlier in the week. If you have not seen that video, definitely take a look at it. But we're talking about Keenan Allen. All right, Keenan Allen for the Chargers. I already told you guys that I definitely favor Justin Herbert this weekend, and I think the pairing of Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert in this matchup against Miami, which is going to be a barn burner, like I said before, there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. Now, granted, any given Sunday, anything can happen. I mean, one of these defenses could come up some big plays. Next thing you know, it's totally, lights out. Well, it's a blowout, and it could get very ugly very quickly. But I believe these two teams, offensively, they have enough weapons to keep this game close, and especially if the Chargers fall a little bit behind, you're going to expect Herbert to really, be firing the ball all over the place on the field. But Keenan Allen is definitely someone that I definitely really do like in this matchup here. Now, granted, last year he lost out on a lot of games. He only played 10 games last season. He missed 7 games due to injuries. But when he is in there, we all know from previous years, he is definitely a dangerous receiver. He had 66 receptions last year in his short 10 games, 752 yards, 4 TDs. He had 89 targets. Not bad at all, with a new offensive coordinator. Okay, so you got Mr. Moore in there now, young offensive coordinator from Arizona. I believe he was with Arizona. He is coming in, and he sees all the weapons he has in this offense, and he's going to open this up. He's going to open it up more than what has been opened up before. This team was a top 5-6 offense. It's going to be up there again this year as well. God willing, nobody has any injuries. But Keenan Allen, I mean, if he stays healthy, he could be very dangerous. Like I discussed earlier in the week, man, Miami allowed a ton of big yardage against opposing offenses. Again, they finished 5th in yards per game to opposing offenses with 234.8. So you could round that off to about 235 yards per game. They also allowed 26.9 fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers, pretty much 27 fantasy points per game. And we got a guy like Allen who's capable of having a big game and putting up 18 or more fantasy points. They were 3rd in fantasy points per game, as I mentioned earlier in the week, to quarterbacks. So that opens up the door, a good solid quarterback with a good receiver in a position where they can really, open up the floodgates here. Now, granted, they did get a little bit more better defensively. The Dolphins did with the trade of Jalen Ramsey, but I know he's had some injuries during the course of the preseason and during training camp. Don't know how healthy he's going to be going into week 1, or if he's going to be playing or not. I haven't gotten any news that he's not going to play, but something tells me he's not going to be 100%. I still love this matchup. I still do. As we move along, last year's matchup, the Chargers put up 367 yards, which I discussed earlier in the week, against the Dolphins. Keenan Allen in that game had 12 receptions for 92 yards. And granted, he wasn't the only one. They lit him up all the way across the board. Mike Williams had 6 catches for 116 yards. And Eckler tacked on another 59, 60 yards receiving as well. So, and now they open up the doors even more so with adding Gerald Everett to this offensive scheme that they have here. So Mr. Moore is going to have a lot of options here. He's going to open it up. It's going to be pretty scary. The Chargers are going to look pretty good offensively this year, especially if everybody stays healthy. So I like this matchup. The only concern here is Jalen Ramsey. How, is he healthy? If he's not, I personally feel I still like the matchup. and at the price tag of $8,000, I think Keenan Allen is definitely a great option here, among others. You know, I mean, there's just plenty of guys that I could talk about, but I ain't going to be here all day talking about all these guys. The next guy that I like, and I already spoke about the quarterback as well, is Mr. Tyler Lockett. Now, Mr. Lockett, 6,800 on FanDuel. Love this matchup here. They're battling the Rams, which last year, you know, they had the second game was a pretty close game. They went into overtime, I believe, if I remember correctly. It was 19-16. But early in the season, you know, he lit them up. I mean, we could look on here, and when he faced, let's see, when he faced the Rams the first time around, here you go, 12 targets, 9 receptions, 128 yards, and 1 touchdown. He put up a 23 spot in that game. And then, of course, the second time around was later in the season, and he only had 4 receptions of 54 yards, but he also put it in the end zone for a 13 spot. Same thing as I discussed earlier. Seattle's offense last year was 11th in the passing game. They put up 232 pretty much yards per game offensively, and they threw the ball on an average of 34 to 35 passing attempts a game. They're going up against the Rams, who defensively last year versus the pass, they gave up 226 yards per game to opposing offenses. Versus Seattle last year, in the first game, 367 yards for Geno Smith. Out of the 367 yards, as you've seen here, Lockett had 9 receptions for 128. Metcalf had 8 receptions for 127 and 1 touchdown. So both guys went at it. And you can go either or, Lockett or Metcalf. Metcalf is going to cost you about another $900, and he's viable as well. But I look at it this way. Metcalf is probably going to get defended with the best corner. No Jalen Ramsey. I think Lockett will have more opportunities. Lockett also sometimes lines up in the slot. So I like Tyler Lockett a whole lot more than Metcalf, but Metcalf is definitely viable in this matchup as well. The Rams' red zone defense last year, they gave up 45% of the time in the red zone. They gave up touchdowns to receivers. They allowed 27.8 fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers, which is pretty high. And, of course, now they have no Jalen Ramsey, and this is with Jalen Ramsey, and now they have no Jalen Ramsey. So that leaves Lockett in a much more better matchup situation for him. So I really love Tyler Lockett here as well. I think he's definitely someone you can consider. And like I said, I mean, very short and brief. I think these guys are in good spots. They're in matchups where they did well against these opponents last year. There are high team totals here. There are high game totals. These are games that you can definitely stack. So you can definitely come back on the other end with one of the Rams players here. Unfortunately for the Rams, no Cooper Kupp, no Jalen Ramsey. Cooper Kupp is hurt with the hamstring. I don't know how well they're going to do here. The only concern here is that we hope that the game stays close enough so the Lockett could put up some serious numbers. But again, you don't have to go this route. There's a number of other guys here as well. Like I mentioned, Metcalf is definitely someone to consider. He's in a good spot. You know, D-Hop is an option at 7,500, but DeAndre Hopkins, you know, he's new to Tennessee. I don't know how his role's gonna fit in there. He should be the top-notch guy. We'll see how Tannehill works with him. I think he's someone that at least for week 1, maybe even week 2, we could watch and see and just sit back and see how things pan out with him and Tannehill. Higgins is definitely viable if you're not on Chase, and that all depends on if Joe Burrow plays, and right now is leaning towards Joe Burrow playing. Olave is definitely Devontae Smith. I think Devontae Smith at 7,200 is definitely viable here. New England is always tough at home, but you know, A.J. Brown might be locked down, and Devontae Smith may be the best option for Philly here. Mike Williams, if you're not on Keenan Allen, get a little bit of Mike Williams. That's all I have to say. For San Francisco, Deebo Samuel's definitely in play. Don't like the matchup against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh definitely a good defensive team, especially tough at home. So I'm going to stay away from that one. Calvin Ridley here for Jacksonville. Definitely like Calvin Ridley here at 7,000. He's definitely an option. Chris Godwin, 6,800. He's the next one on my list. I think he's definitely someone to consider. You definitely got to consider Amari Cooper out of the Cleveland guys here for Deshaun Watson. Jerry Jeudy, if he's out with the hamstring, and chances are he is, loving Cortland Sutton. Sutton is at 5,900. That is a very good price for Cortland Sutton if there is no Jerry Jeudy for Russell Wilson. And then we got Michael Pittman here, 6,600. He put up over 100 yards in the matchup last year against Jacksonville. So Pittman is in play. Other than that, Bateman, possibly. There goes Cortland Sutton. Definitely like him there. And Elijah Moore, 5,700. OBJ at 5,700 for Baltimore. Not bad. Treylon Burks. He was one of the top guys for Tennessee last year. Came up big several times, 5,700. So these are guys you can consider. Rondell Moore for Arizona. I just don't like Arizona's team in general. They just really are bad. And the only other guy I would consider, Tyler Boyd, 5,400 as a slot receiver. You know, in between there, sandwich between Higgins and Chase. If Burrow's there, could be an option at 5,400. He has a tendency of getting in the end zone and giving you a quick 10 to 11 fantasy points. So that's pretty much it. Those are the guys I'm looking at. So I mean, tomorrow I'm going to come back with some tight ends. Not anything crazy. I'm going to select 2 guys that I'm going to be definitely eyeing. And other than that, that's basically it, man. So again, make sure you drop a like, man. Comment down below. Let me know what you think of this list. Let me know who you like and who you don't like. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, so that we can be able to discuss some more football picks and prize picks. I think on Friday I'm going to do a prize picks video, just go over a couple players, or maybe Saturday just before Sunday. And because I do play prize picks as well, and I've been having pretty good success, especially now with tennis as of late, with the U.S. Open. I've done pretty well this past week, so would love to talk a little bit about prize picks as well. I would try to squeeze them in here, but I want to make these videos quick. So we'll see you guys tomorrow, man. You guys have a great day. Peace out.